Hello world, my name is Atticus and welcome to The Experiment. 2022 sure was one of the years of all time, right? Among the many things contained within its 365 days, this year saw the release of some games, and we're going to look at the best ones, 10 of them in fact, because everyone loves a list. A quick disclaimer before we begin, however, ranking games in this way necessitates ranking genres. I and anyone else who would attempt this have favored genres, and were we not to consider this, it would tip the scales in a very obviously biased manner. This will still come through, but it'll be less apparent. If there are two games within the same genre that released this year and feel like top 10 contenders, I will only include one of them, with the exception of if both of the games do something interesting within the genre, and they both do different interesting things. And one last note, re-releases won't be included with the exception of them being interestingly different, like the Final Fantasy VII remake. With that out of the way, let's begin. First on our list is PlateUp, a wonderful little roguelike with solid multiplayer elements. PlateUp understands that a game which is solved typically ceases to be fun. It's a fun party trick to show that I know the optimal moves in tic-tac-toe, but I'm not going out of my way to play it. Similarly, speedrunners, the epitome of mastery within the video game space, tend to continue runs until they reach some sort of goal. Sometimes that's a world record, sometimes that's getting the world record below a certain minute mark. And once they achieve that, they tend to take a break, since speedrunning is exhausting. To help mitigate this, PlateUp does a fantastic job of implementing procedural randomness, from the difficulty cards you pick from at the end of each day to the cards you get and what they upgrade to, and even to the layout of the restaurant. There are enough combinations, and these combinations are good enough that each run can feel like a unique challenge, which keeps people coming back for more. We've seen excessive procedural generation for its own sake with the original release of No Man's Sky, and while there's an allure in searching for a nugget of gold in a haystack with over 18 quintillion individual strands of hay, it is, for most, understandably a tedious and unrewarding endeavor. PlateUp avoids this by focusing on the elements that will have the greatest impact on how you play. If you haven't tried it yet, I'd recommend it, especially if you have a couple of friends to play with. Number next is Weird West, which is an incredible action RPG. I don't want to spoil too much, but I am going to spoil a little, so if you want to avoid that, skip ahead like 30 seconds. Weird West has a similar progression to Bloodborne, where things start out as a little weird, but manageably so, but then continually gets, well, weirder. The game gives you a lot of freedom in how you interact with the world, so while the characters you play are predetermined, it still feels like you're creating your own role and carving out your own space within this world. Personally, I'm terrible at the combat in this game. It's the worst I've been at a game in a very long time. Still, a phenomenal experience. In 8th, we have Expeditions Rome. Triangle Strategy was another great tactical role-playing game that released this year. However, I am a sucker for historical fiction, especially when that historical fiction sees you stealing Julius Caesar's place in history. The game was tailor-made for me, which is why it's on this list, but I can still be mostly impartial. That's why it's 8th. Expeditions Rome features some great tactical combat, as well as wonderfully broken strategies. Well, at least until they patch them out. But the game also places emphasis on the role-playing gameplay, including engaging pieces of gameplay outside of combat, allowing you to freely explore the region you're fighting in while maintaining your army in controlled territory. It's like a mix of tactical role-playing and real-time strategy, and it turned out pretty well. Next up is Tunic, a lovely little action-adventure title that follows a little fox on their adventure doing something. I'll be honest, I didn't have a good time with this one. Tunic's not for me, but I do think it still deserves to be up here. It has a cute and endearing art style and an incredible nostalgia bait collectible in the form of a game manual, like what you might find packaged with an NES title. By finding pages of this manual and flipping through it, you get hints about puzzles and challenges as well as ideas about what to explore. If you're feeling lost while exploring this sizable locale, flipping through that booklet will probably give you a good idea of where to head next. For me, personally, I need like a hair's breadth more direction. There were plenty of times where I was wandering aimlessly, not sure if my running about was progressing me anywhere. And the game's difficulty made me wary of stretching myself too thin. I hit the librarian boss and stopped, and after watching someone else play through the game, I feel like I hit that boss way too early. I, of course, knew that there were other things I could go and do, but it had been exhausting getting to where I was, and I didn't want to turn back defeated. It's still a really cool game though, and I like what they went for, even if I wasn't a fan of the experience proper. Vampire Survivors, to my surprise, place 6. I ignored this game for a while. I knew it existed and that people seemed to enjoy it, but when you watch clips of the game, there tends to be a lot of noise, and I'm not exactly a fan of bullet hells. Then I learned it's $5. Let me tell you, it's worth a lot more than that. The progression system in the game is incredible. While a lot of the neat clips feature a lot of noise, each individual round starts off relatively tame, easing you into the experience before ramping up to 11. There are roguelike elements to the game, where what weapons or items you have available are randomly determined, sometimes forcing you to use an unfamiliar combo, as well as long-lasting progression you can get outside of runs that makes the game overall more manageable. And some of the latter levels simply possible. It's an incredibly fun time, but I feel I must give this warning. Something about the game has placed it in the good for a few quick runs category, where I feel like booting it up if I've got some free time, but not a lot. This game does not belong there. Even early on runs are at least 5 minutes, and once you get used to the game, a single run is easily 20 minutes, and mercifully at most 30. And once you get into the zone, it's real easy to keep going. On more than a few occasions, I've opened this game up for a quick run or two before heading to bed, and found myself up far later than I should have been. The 5th entry is, I regret to inform you, non-existent. There is no 5th best game this year, which is an odd thing to say, I know. If I were just listing my top 10 favorite games of the year, then we wouldn't have this problem, and the list would probably be slightly different. But I'm after the top 10 best games, and there's an important difference there. How does that stop me from taking a runner-up, slapping it in 10th place, and sliding everything else up? Honestly, I'm not sure. But Expeditions Rome came out in January of this year, and after I was done playing it, I knew it was the 8th best game that would release this year. And so far, I think I've been right. Nothing has supplanted it. Nothing else is the 8th best game, even if there are 8 better games that released this year. Like, I enjoyed Triangle Strategy more than Expeditions Rome. Between the two, I definitely list the former higher than the latter in a list of personal favorite games. But Triangle Strategy didn't really do much that I found interesting. It was a good game, but it wasn't a top 10 game, which brings us to the heart of the problem. Of all the games I played this year, only 4 of them were top 5 games of the year. Of the games I haven't played this year, I think Immortality is the most likely to take the spot, but I haven't played it, so I can't speak definitively. Feel free to consider whatever game you think deserve to have made this list number 10 and slide the above entries up a spot if this absence feels wrong to you. In fourth, we have Citizen Sleeper, a great story with a really interesting take on the dice mechanic. For those who may be unfamiliar, the dice mechanic refers to any time a video game implements RNG by simulating a dice roll, like how one would do in a tabletop game. Baldur's Gate 3 features a dice roll mechanic pretty prominently by overtly rolling a dice after certain dialogue options, and secretly rolling them during combat, though the results are posted to a battle log, assuming I'm remembering the right game. In Citizen Sleeper, instead of rolling a die when the situation calls for it, the game rolls a set number of dice during each in-game morning, and you can pick which of those rolls to use for each activity you do. How much health you have determines how many dice you get, which gives you further incentive to keep your health up other than, survival, and has you planning your days differently than you would if everything was just up to chance in the moment. It's really neat, and I like it a lot. Topping up our top 3 is Neon White, a brilliant title that has already inspired so many videos. There's a lot to say about how the game teaches you to speedrun it, about the lovable dorks that comprise the cast and how the cringe is the point, as well as the incredible style with which it's all presented. All topics which I could not do credit in this style of video. What I can say is that despite not really speedrunning anything myself and not being an avid fan of the first-person shooter genre, I currently have all but 2 of the Steam achievements, and the 2 I'm missing each require marathoning the entire game without dying. I still intend to get them. That's how good it is. Our second place winner, beaten out only by the obvious, is Norco, a game absolutely dripping with atmosphere. I had never really played any games in the point-and-click genre up till now. In all honesty, I thought it was a genre born from technical limitations, one that wouldn't really stand up to the experiences available today. But Norco flipped that misconception on its head. The point-and-click genre was and still is capable of delivering incredible experiences, and I can't say too much about Norco's without spoiling some aspect of this incredible experience. I will say that I wholeheartedly recommend it. And finally, the game of the year is, you guessed it, that one. The best one. You know the one. A real game's game. The culmination of the lessons that the medium has learned up till now and a taste of what's still yet capable of. It's the game that makes me most excited about the future of gaming and that has secured its place as the best game of this year and a strong contender, so far, for the decade. It's been quite a year for the channel. I've recently gotten my first few dislikes based on my stance about Final Fantasy IV. I play it up for humor and do not plan to stop, so this is the only time I'll say this on record. 4 is a fine game. I don't really have anything against it. I recognize how groundbreaking it was for the time and how it's an important piece of not only Final Fantasy's history, but that of the whole genre. I've also been informed that the 3D remake fixes quite a few of the issues I had with the original, and will agree here, and only here, that had I played that version first, I'd probably have a vastly different opinion on the experience. I also had a video get over 10,000 views. It's the Final Fantasy I glitch dive, which is incredible. Videos released this year have averaged 142 views compared to last year, which, with a whole extra year of existing, averages 817 views per video, or 98 if you take the behemoth out of the equation. I've definitely made an effort to make videos as if people would watch them, but you guys maybe actually exist now. And it's got me thinking about what I want to say in these videos. The style is video essay, but I rarely have a thesis statement, so they're more like observations or the answers to random questions I have. I think that's called a research paper. Who's to say? I want to make an effort to make my content more like the kind of videos I like to watch. Most of that is going to involve just getting better at making videos. I'm still kind of bad at the editing part, which is not to say I'm spectacular at any other piece of the process, but it's definitely something I can improve on. Most of that is making sure that I have the time to do a good job. Most videos get made in the last week of the month, and that includes any research, writing, recording, and finally editing. This video, for example, I forget when I wrote it. Last edit was 5 days ago. I'm recording on the 30th, which is the same day I'll be editing so it can go live on the 31st. It's not a good process. But I'm also juggling a full-time job and, up until a few months ago, a master's degree. I'd gotten comfortable with the schedule I'd had, but now that I don't have to worry about school, and now that there seem to be people out here, I'd like to dedicate some more time to the videos. To that end, I've already planned out the main 12 videos I want to make in 2023. This list is by no means set in stone, but it helps to have a plan. I can, for instance, work on the videos that aren't immediately about to release, so when their month does come, I can dedicate more time to editing, since I find the writing bit easier. Additionally, my better performing videos tend to be Final Fantasy related, and I do still plan to make more Final Fantasy content, but I don't want to get pigeonholed into being a Final Fantasy creator. I want to feel like I can make any kind of content. The past 2 years each had 2 planned Final Fantasy videos, and the next year is no different, but the first video won't be out until June. And I think that's it for the state of the channel. I'm focusing on bettering my time management and really learning how to write and edit. Hopefully that will begin to show. Until then, thanks for joining in on the ride. If you're watching this much of the video, I figure you're in it to win it, or coming from the future where I've made it big, or at least gotten a small but dedicated cult following. So you get to know my Game of the Year pick. It's not a surprising choice, but it is Elden Ring. Absolutely phenomenal title. I have been Atticus, and thank you for participating.